Welcome to the Zoho People Attendance course. In this video, we will be handling settings and restrictions, user shift. So, let's move right along. Zoho People offers intuitive customizations so you can have settings confined to specific users and shifts as per your organizational needs. Using the User Shift Settings tab, you can create different attendance settings for a user or a shift. You will see the options that are in general settings. However, you can set any variations that you want for a user or for a shift. So, from your Home tab, navigate to Attendance, then to Settings, then to User Shift Specific Settings, and then Add Settings. So now that we are at Add Settings, type in the settings name, click on Shifts or Users under Settings, type. Use the list icon to select the shifts if you are defining shift-based settings. Use the list icon in Users if you would like to select one more user. And now for working hours. Total hours calculation. If you choose first check in and last check out, this option calculates the time you first check in and your last check out time. In the intervening time, you can check in and check out multiple times, which will not be taken into consideration. Every valid check in and check out. This option calculates only the valid check in and check out entries. For example, if you check in at 9 a.m. and check out at 11 a.m. and again check in at 12 p.m., the system will calculate only the hours you were in the office, which are between 9 and 11 a.m., thus not calculating the time between 11 to 12 p.m. Minimum hours required for a day. You have two modes to choose from. The very first one is strict mode. You can define the number of hours your employees should be present in the office for half-day and full-day attendance. The system will automatically update the attendance status as half-day and full-day accordingly. The second option under minimum hours required for a day is lenient mode. Lenient mode is for organization that have flexible work hours. Let us assume that you have set 9 hours as working hours for your organization. In the lenient mode, if an employee checks in on a particular day, it means that the employee is present for the day. So, in both these modes, you can have the minimum hours calculated based on the manual input that you give or based on the duration of the shift. If you choose to have the minimum hours calculated based on the shift hours, then the entire duration of the shift will be taken as the input for a full day, and half of the duration of the shift will be taken as the input for a half day. Show over deviation time. You can select this checkbox to show employees overtime and deviation time. In the strict mode, if you have fixed 4 hours as a half day and 8 hours as a full day requirement, then if someone is present for only 7 hours, the system will capture it as a half day present and a half day absent, showing the 1 hour deficit under deviation time. If someone is present for 5 hours, then it will be shown as half day present and half day absent, with the deficit 3 hours shown under deviation time. On the other hand, if someone has worked 10 hours, then it will be shown as full day present with an overtime of 2 hours. In the lenient mode, if you have fixed 8 hours as minimum working hours required for a day, when an employee works for more than 9 hours, then it is calculated as overtime, and anything less than 9 hours is calculated as a deviation. Maximum hours required for a day. This is used to set maximum working hours for the employees. The maximum working hours can be fixed for both half and full day working. This option is very helpful when you need to set a limit for the working hours. By default, maximum hours is disabled. Click Enable to use this option. Please note, if you have enabled overtime for your organization and also enabled maximum working hours, then overtime exceeding the maximum working hours fixed will not be considered as overtime. Round off. This setting enables you to round off attendance check-in and check-out entries to simplify payroll calculations. It can also provide some flexibility for employees when arriving late to or leaving early from work. So, the organization can set minutes for first check-in. An employee's first check-in entry will be rounded off to the start of the shift time if it falls within the set minutes. Last check-out. An employee's last check-out entry will be rounded off to the end of the shift time if it falls within the set minutes. Total worked hours. An employee's total worked hours will be rounded off to the expected working hours set by the organization if it falls within the set minutes. Let's look at a use case to understand this better. Say an employee belongs to the general shift of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and the expected working hours in the organization are 8 hours. So based on the above configurations, if an employee's first check-in entry is anywhere from 1 minute past 9 a.m. to 10 minutes past 9 a.m., it will be rounded off to 9 a.m. If the employee's first check-in entry is any time from 10 minutes past 9 p.m., it will not be rounded off. If an employee's last check-in entry is anywhere from 10 minutes to 6 p.m. to 1 minute to 6 p.m., it will be rounded off to 6 p.m. However, if the employee's last check-out is any time before 10 minutes to 6 p.m., it will not be rounded off. If an employee's recorded working hours are anywhere between 7 hours and 50 minutes to 7 hours and 59 minutes, it will be rounded off to 8 hours. If the employee's recorded working hours are less than 7 hours and 50 minutes, it will not be rounded off. Grace period policy. Grace period policy lets you set rules and define the number of deviations allowed for an employee to come in late, stay at work for less time, and leave early from work. Once the set number of deviations exceed, you can define the leave to be deducted as a consequence. In Zoho People, you can set grace time for first check-in and last check-out. In Zoho People, you can set grace time for first check-in, last check-out, and working hours, and also set these additional criteria. The following. Set the number of deviations allowed for a week, month, or pay period. Once the number of deviations exceed, set the number of leaves that must be deducted, from which leave types, and in what order. So, to enable grace period, check Enable Grace Period. Enter the allowed time for the first check-in, last check-out, and working hours as required. Enter the number of deviations allowed and select the period within which it is allowed, week, month, or pay period. Select the number of leaves to be deducted once the allowed deviation exceeds. Enter the leave type from which leave is to be deducted. Enter additional leave types, from which leave must be deducted either once the leave balance lapses or when it is in deficit. Permissions. Web check-in, check-out. You can make use of this option to enable or disable the option of check-in and check-out on the web. Mobile check-in, check-out. You can make use of this option to enable or disable the option of check-in and check-out through mobile devices. View subordinates entries. Enabling this option helps managers to view the attendance entries of their subordinates. Edit subordinates entries. Enabling this option helps managers to view and edit the attendance entries of their subordinates. If you click Notify, you can also add someone who needs to be notified when subordinate entries are edited. Edit own entries. Edit own entries. By enabling this option, you give access to your employees to edit their own entries. The reporting manager can be sent a notification if you check the Notify Reporting Manager option. Anyone else who should be notified can be added by checking the Notify option. Apart from this, you can also have an approval configured when attendance entries are edited. Show attendance report page. Here, if you select the Reporting Manager option, the manager can access all the attendance reports. Show balance overtime view. Show attendance report page. Here, if you select the Reporting Manager option, then managers can access all the attendance reports. Show balance overtime view. You can set here as to who should have access to see the balance overtime. Edit balance overtime view. The permissions to edit the balance overtime can be set here. And now for shift reminder. Under this section, you can set reminders for check-in and check-out of employees. You can also set automatic notifications to be sent to reporting managers when there is no check-in done for the day by their subordinates. Shift notifications can be enabled under Attendance, then navigate to Settings, User Shift Specific Settings. Then click Add Settings. Under Settings type, select Shifts. And now that we are at Shift Reminder, let's take a look at the types. There are 5 types of notifications possible. Notifications will be sent via email and feeds. Type 1. Check-in reminder for employees for the desired hours before shift start time. Here you can set that the reminder should be sent to the employee before the desired hours of the shift start time, informing them that their shift is about to begin and the check-in should be done. Type 2. Check-in reminder for employees. The desired hours before after start time. Here you can set that the reminder should be sent to an employee after the desired hours of the shift start time, notifying them that their shift has already begun and the check-in should be done. The criteria for Type 1 and Type 2. These 2 reminders get triggered only when there is no check-in entry found for the day. Criteria for Type 1 and Type 2. These 2 reminders get triggered only when there is no check-in entry found for the day. Type 3. Checkout reminder for employees. The desired number of hours before shift end time. In this case, you can set that the reminder should be sent before the desired hours of the shift end time, notifying that their shift is about to end and the checkout should be done. Type 4. Checkout reminder for employees. The desired number of hours after shift end time. In this case, You can set that the reminder should be sent after the desired number of hours after shift end time, notifying that their shift has ended and that they need to do the checkout. So, criteria for type 3 and type 4. These two reminders will be triggered only when there is an open checkout status found for the day. Let's take a look at a scenario. Scenario 1. The first check-in is at 9 a.m. First check-out is at 1 p.m. The second check-in is at 2 p.m. Here, there is no checkout after 2 p.m., which means the checkout status is open. In this case, the reminder will be triggered. Scenario 2. First check-in is at 9 a.m. First check-out is at 1 p.m. Here, after 1, there is no check-in, which means the checkout status is closed. In this case, the reminder will not be triggered. Type 5. Notifying reporting manager. In this case, the reporting manager will be notified of the list of their subordinates who have not done their check-in until the time that has been set. Please note, if a reporting manager has subordinates across locations, the data of those who have not checked in will be populated in the same email. However, if the subordinates are across different shifts, then data will be sent to different emails. There will be as many emails as there are shifts in which the reporting manager has subordinates working. The time zones in which the reminders will be sent will be A. Based on the time zones mapped to the locations, or B. Organizational default time zone. Employees who are not mapped to any location and locations that are not mapped to any time zone will be sent a reminder in the organizational default time zone. We have now set specific settings for users or shifts. Please note, if there are user or shift specific settings created, it will take precedence over organization's attended settings. Regularization. Regularization for future dates. Here you can enable or disable regularization for future dates. Regularization can be raised for the required number of days from the date to be regularized. Regularization can be raised for the number of required days, a week, or month, or pay period. The number of days within which the regularization request can be raised from the date to be regularized is specified here. For example, let us assume that the number of days is specified as 3. If a request needs to be raised for regularizing the entry on the 1st of September, then the request is to be raised on or before of the 4th September. The number of days that the regularization request within the time period chosen can be raised can be specified. For example, you can set the time period as week and the days as 2. This will mean that a maximum of 2 days can be raised in a week. This restriction does not apply while admins are making regularizations. To configure user-specific regularization settings, click Add Settings and select Users under Settings type. Please note, to restrict a specific user's number of days that can be entered as a value in the required number of days of times field. Thank you for watching the Zero People Attendance course, User Shift. See you in the next video.